Radar scans beneath Antarctica revealed something that should not exist: geometry. Not jagged mountains, not chaotic valleys carved by ancient ice, but shapes with precision, triangular peaks rising in near-perfect symmetry, domes with smooth arcs, as if crafted by hand, straight ridges stretching for kilometers through a continent where nothing is supposed to be straight. For the scientists who first studied these anomalies, the reaction was disbelief. Could ice and stone, left to the slow violence of glaciers, really carve monuments so deliberate? Or were they glimpsing the ruins of something lost, a hidden architecture sealed away for millions of years? The first hints came in the mid-20th century, when Cold War satellites and ice-penetrating radar began peeling back Antarctica's frozen shell. What they found was astonishing: mountain chains rivaling the Alps, valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon, and vast rivers of liquid water flowing in utter darkness. These revelations alone rewrote maps of the continent, yet amid them, stranger shapes appeared. Patterns that defied geology's randomness. In 2012, a British Antarctic survey team charting the Ellsworth Mountains reported a formation with uncanny geometry. Its faces rose at clean 45-degree angles, capped with ice but symmetrical enough to resemble a pyramid. Geologists called it a nunatak, the exposed tip of a buried mountain, but to others, it looked too precise to dismiss as coincidence. The resemblance to Giza was undeniable. So much so that whispers of a pyramid in Antarctica spread beyond academic circles into popular imagination. And the anomalies were not confined to one range. NASA's radar surveys revealed dome-like features hundreds of meters across, hidden beneath the ice sheet. These smooth, uniform structures stood in sharp contrast to the jagged ridges surrounding them. Officially, they were explained as volcanic outcroppings or glacial formations, yet the explanations failed to quiet speculation. Why did they look so perfectly shaped, so out of place in such chaotic terrain? Skeptics point to natural analogies. They remind us of the Matterhorn in the Alps, a perfect horn peak sculpted by frost and ice into a four-sided pyramid. Erosion, they argue, can mimic architecture, given enough time, but the human eye resists. When faced with a formation that aligns almost exactly with the cardinal directions, with slopes as clean as cut stone, we are not inclined to see geology. We see design. And this is the deeper mystery. Antarctica is not just a land of ice. It is a vault of time. Its ice layers stretch back millions of years, preserving whatever lies beneath in perfect secrecy. If ruins exist here, they would be untouched since long before the dawn of history. Older than Göbekli Tepe, older than the pyramids of Giza, perhaps older even than the legend of Atlantis. So the questions pile up. Are these simply mountains frozen into uncanny symmetry? Could they be monuments built when Antarctica was ice-free, if such a time ever existed? If so, who built them? And what catastrophe buried them under kilometers of ice, erasing their builders from memory? The radar scans show only fragments: peaks, domes, ridges. But each new glimpse suggests that Antarctica is not the blank slate we were taught in school. Instead, it may be concealing the greatest archaeological discovery in human history: a civilization erased by ice, or something stranger still. And if that is true, then the most remote and inhospitable place on Earth is also its most important. For beneath Antarctica's veil of ice, geometry whispers a story we are not yet allowed to hear. Antarctica is the most desolate continent on Earth, yet it is the most protected, a land with no cities, no native population, no agriculture or industry, locked in ice for millions of years. And still, it is guarded more tightly than any other frontier. Why would a frozen wasteland draw such extraordinary secrecy? The earliest explorers sensed something uncanny. In January 1912, Robert Falcon Scott stood at the South Pole and wrote in his diary, "Great God, this is an awful place." His words captured both the terror and majesty of the landscape, a world so alien that it seemed outside of human time. Ernest Shackleton, who led multiple expeditions into the frozen interior, described Antarctica as the naked soul of man, a place that stripped explorers of all illusions and left only awe. But by the 20th century, this awe gave way to geopolitics. In 1938, Nazi Germany launched the Schwabenland expedition to claim Neuschwabenland. Aircraft crisscrossed the skies, dropping aluminum darts marked with swastikas to stake territory. What the German team saw and recorded has never been fully released, but speculation lingers. Were they mapping more than just coastline? Less than a decade later, the United States returned in force. In 1946, Admiral Richard E. Byrd commanded Operation High Jump, the largest Antarctic mission ever mounted. The task force included 13 ships, 23 aircraft, and over 4,700 men. Officially, it was billed as training for cold weather warfare. Yet within months, the operation was cut short. Rumors spread of unexpected casualties, and then Byrd himself, speaking to a Chilean newspaper, gave a cryptic warning. America must prepare to defend against an enemy with the ability to fly from pole to pole at incredible speed. Historians debate his words. Perhaps he meant Soviet aircraft, but their ambiguity has fueled speculation for decades. By 1959, something unprecedented occurred. At the height of the Cold War, 12 nations, bitter rivals elsewhere, suddenly agreed to cooperate in Antarctica. The Antarctic Treaty was signed, banning military activity, mining, and territorial claims. Today, it remains one of the strictest treaties ever written. Advocates call it a triumph of peace and science. Skeptics see it differently. When has humanity ever ignored untapped resources, unless there was a deeper reason? Even now, vast portions of the continent remain curiously restricted. The McMurdo Dry Valleys, warmed by geothermal vents and largely ice-free, are closed to most exploration. Satellite images show unusual heat signatures in regions that should be frozen solid. Certain peaks are declared off-limits to climbers, with little justification beyond safety. Expeditions that stray into forbidden zones have been quietly redirected or escorted back. And then there are the anomalies. Soviet scientists once reported magnetic disturbances that made compasses spin uncontrollably. Declassified U.S. Navy memos refer to zones of anomalous radar returns. Pilots whisper of lights darting across the horizon at impossible speeds, only to vanish into the night. All of this paints a paradox. Antarctica is portrayed as empty, lifeless, and inhospitable, yet it is simultaneously the most controlled landmass on Earth. If there is nothing beneath the ice, why enforce silence with treaties, restrictions, and classified reports? And if there is something, what secret is so powerful that nations once at war remain united in concealing it? The pattern is clear. Antarctica is not merely protected, it is sealed. And as we turn from the political to the physical, the question grows sharper. Rising from the frozen landscape itself are anomalies so striking that they cannot be ignored. Structures resembling pyramids, monuments where no civilization is supposed to exist. They rise from the ice like impossible monuments. Triangular peaks, their faces sloping at near-perfect 45-degree angles, crowned with snow yet shaped with uncanny precision. To geologists, they are nunataks, mountain summits exposed above the ice. But to many eyes, they look like something else entirely. Pyramids, monuments in a place where no civilization is supposed to exist. The most famous lies in the Ellsworth Mountains. Radar and satellite imagery revealed a formation whose symmetry was startling. Its four faces converge with a regularity that seemed deliberate, as if aligned to some lost blueprint. When compared side by side with the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the resemblance is unsettling. Angles, proportions, even orientation. Was this merely erosion, or something more? Further east, in the Shackleton Range, aerial surveys identified clusters of pyramid-shaped peaks, some buried deep, others exposed to the wind. In leaked photographs circulated in the 2000s, these formations cut sharply against the horizon, their slopes so precise that even experienced geologists admitted they were visually striking. The official explanation remains firm. These are natural features, shaped by glaciers grinding rock into angular peaks. Indeed, Earth holds many natural pyramids, the Matterhorn in the Alps, Mount Bullansteindur in Iceland, and even Mount Mayon in the Philippines, a volcanic cone so symmetrical it looks engineered. Nature, given time, can mimic design. And yet, skepticism lingers. These Antarctic pyramids seem to appear in clusters, echoing the layouts of known ancient complexes. In Egypt, Giza's three great pyramids are arranged with astronomical precision, said to mirror the belt of Orion. In Mexico, the pyramids of Teotihuacan align with solstices and sacred avenues. In Cambodia, the stepped pyramid of Ko Kher rises from the jungle with perfect symmetry. Why do pyramids dominate the human imagination across continents? And why does the same geometry now appear in the most inaccessible place on Earth? Some theorists suggest coincidence, Others believe the design reflects universal principles: stability, strength, a natural outcome of gravity and human ingenuity. But there are those who argue for something more mysterious, that pyramids represent a shared knowledge, passed down or preserved across ages. If civilizations thousands of miles apart built them, perhaps Antarctica's peaks are not coincidence, but another piece of that global puzzle. And then comes the troubling alignment. Some Antarctic formations, when measured, appear to orient toward true north with surprising accuracy. Chance, say the skeptics. But to those inclined to see patterns, the idea of pyramids aligned with the Earth's axis, hidden under ice for millennia, is too tantalizing to ignore. If natural, these peaks are marvels of geology, testaments to the sculpting power of wind and ice. If artificial, they are something else entirely. Monuments older than recorded history, evidence that Antarctica was once warm, habitable, and inhabited. The debate remains unresolved. Science insists on geology, mystery insists on memory, and the world is left staring at icy triangles, wondering if nature alone can account for such symmetry. But the pyramids are not the only anomalies Antarctica holds. Some researchers point beyond stone, to the possibility of entire civilizations erased by ice. Others suggest influences not of this world, and still more whisper of realms beneath our feet, hidden in darkness. If the pyramid-like peaks are more than geology, then Antarctica presents us with three possibilities, each more extraordinary than the last. The first, that a lost civilization once thrived here, long before the ice. This theory gained attention in the mid-20th century, when U.S. Air Force cartographer Charles Hapgood proposed that Earth's crust had shifted thousands of years ago, displacing entire continents. In Hapgood's view, Antarctica might once have been situated farther north, in a temperate zone, before sliding into its current polar position. His controversial book Earth-Shifting Crust won unexpected support from none other than Albert Einstein, who wrote a foreword stating, "His arguments are of great importance to everything that is connected with the history of the Earth's surface." If Hapgood was correct, then the icy continent we know today may once have been lush, fertile, and capable of supporting advanced life. Evidence for this idea is often linked to the Piri-Reis map, drawn in 1513. This early Ottoman chart appears to some to show Antarctica's coastline free of ice. Historians counter that the supposed match is coincidence, but the allure remains. Could ancient mariners have charted a landmass we only discovered centuries later? If so, what knowledge have we lost? This possibility fuels comparisons to Atlantis, Plato's account of a great civilization destroyed in a sudden cataclysm. Could Antarctica be its true resting place, entombed beneath miles of ice after a shift in Earth's axis or a global flood? If the pyramids are real, then they may not only mark Antarctica's forgotten past, but serve as gravestones for humanity's first great empire. The second possibility pushes further, that these anomalies are not human at all. Across the world, pyramids appear again and again. Egypt, Mexico, Mesopotamia, China, even in remote Pacific islands. Cultures with no contact somehow arrived at the same design. Erich von Däniken, father of the ancient astronaut hypothesis, argued that pyramids are the universal signature of the gods. In his view, they are markers, evidence of extraterrestrial visitors who guided early civilizations. If Antarctica holds pyramids, then it would strengthen this theory immeasurably. Why would advanced beings mark this frozen continent? Was it once a hub or a refuge at the very bottom of the world? And then there is the third, most radical possibility, the hollow earth theory. Myths of subterranean realms exist in cultures across the globe. Tibetan legends speak of Agartha, Norse mythology describes hidden lands beneath Yggdrasil, and Native American traditions tell of peoples emerging from underground worlds. Nazi mystics in the Tula Society embraced the idea of underground refuges, linking them to their 1938 expedition in New Schwabenland. Mainstream science dismisses the idea completely. Earth's interior is solid and molten, not hollow, and yet the legend endures. Perhaps because Antarctica, more than any other place on Earth, feels like a gateway, vast, unexplored, sealed in silence. Whether real or not, the hollow Earth remains entwined with Antarctica's mythology. So we are left with three paths. If human, then history must be rewritten, and Antarctica is home to a civilization older than Mesopotamia. If alien, then Earth's most desolate continent holds the clearest evidence that we are not alone. If hollow Earth, then the greatest mystery is not what lies above the ice, but what lies beneath it. Whichever theory you follow, one thing remains certain. Antarctica guards its secrets well. Discoveries are announced, then silenced. Expeditions uncover anomalies, then are redirected. Data is classified, reports restricted. It is a continent that refuses to explain itself. And so the question deepens. Is Antarctica merely geology and myth, or is it hiding the greatest discovery in human history? The answer may lie not in stone or legend, but in the signals now being detected deep beneath the ice, patterns too precise to be natural. Few places on Earth reveal so much, then fall so silent. Antarctica does this again and again. A discovery is made, hints of wonder emerge, and then the story stops. The pattern is almost ritual, a glimpse of revelation, followed by silence, as though the ice itself demands secrets remain buried. Consider Lake Vostok, sealed beneath nearly 4 kilometers of ice for at least 15 million years. In the 1990s, Russian teams began drilling into it, calling it one of Earth's last untouched environments. The world waited for the results. In 2012, the breakthrough came. The drill pierced the ancient lake, releasing samples brought to the surface. Headlines promised a new ecosystem, perhaps even life forms unseen since before humanity walked the Earth. But the results were confusing. Fragments of microbial DNA were reported, then dismissed as contamination. Other claims hinted at organisms that should not exist in such isolation. Within months, the announcement stopped. Data was limited, papers delayed. The greatest hidden lake in the world had been breached, and then the silence closed in again. In 2019, another expedition drilled into Lake Mercer, a smaller subglacial body buried more than a kilometer beneath the West Antarctic ice sheet. What they found shocked the scientific community. Traces of ancient microbes, diatoms, and even tiny crustacean remains, creatures that had no business existing in total darkness, under crushing pressure, sealed away for thousands of years. The discovery raised enormous questions about life's resilience. Could ecosystems thrive beneath the ice, independent of sunlight? If so, could similar environments exist elsewhere, perhaps beneath the frozen oceans of Europa or Enceladus? And yet, like Vostok, the findings were announced, then quietly shelved. Other mysteries are visible above the surface. At the tongue of the Taylor Glacier flows a phenomenon called blood falls, water the color of rust spilling across ice. Scientists eventually traced it to a brine saturated with iron, fed by a hidden subglacial network. But the effect is haunting, a crimson river cutting through white desolation, as though the glacier itself were bleeding. Even more extraordinary is the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory, buried 2 kilometers beneath the South Pole. Thousands of sensors embedded in the ice record the passage of ghostly particles from deep space, neutrinos traveling across the universe. Here, in Earth's most remote continent, scientists have built a window into the cosmos itself. Antarctica is not empty. It is alive, geologically, biologically, and perhaps in ways we do not yet understand. But again, the pattern emerges. Discovery, then silence. Blood Falls is explained, but only partially. Vostok's results remain ambiguous. Mercer's revelations sit in archives. And Ice Cube, though celebrated, only reminds us how much of the universe, and of Antarctica, remains unseen. Layered on top of this is the political silence. The Antarctic Treaty forbids drilling for resources, forbids military presence, forbids permanent settlement. It is the only continent humanity has agreed not to exploit. Nations that battle for oil, gas, and minerals elsewhere stand united here in restraint. Why? Environmentalists point to conservation. Skeptics ask whether Antarctica is protected for another reason, not because it is barren, but because it is not. So the riddle remains. Antarctica shows us just enough to provoke awe, then hides the rest. Why does every discovery end in silence? If the continent is truly lifeless, why guard it like a vault? And if it is not, what is locked beneath the ice? Perhaps the greatest discovery in human history has already been made. A discovery so vast that it cannot yet be revealed. Perhaps the pyramids, the domes, the forbidden valleys, and the strange signals are fragments of a puzzle that will change everything we know about ourselves. Until then, Antarctica remains what it has always been, the most mysterious place on Earth.